Hey everybody, welcome to Office Hours. I'm Nora Sto, and Happy Nowruz for those of you who celebrate Persian New Year is on the first day of spring, which this year is on Sunday. So the reason we're a couple minutes late is because I was showing Sto my Haxton, which is our traditional altar. But today we're talking about merch and all the ways that you as an artist can make money without having to rely on streams or individual sales. And so the short answer is there's a ton of ways to make money without having to rely on streams and individual sales. So we're going to get into all that today. So how you doing?
Doing good. I appreciate all of you for coming through. Let us know in the comment section, like your favorite merch set that you've seen, not just from like, yo, that was a dope shirt, but like we'll get into it in a second. But like, what made you grab that shirt, and what did you like about that kind of rollout that happens? Because there's always a connection. I feel like when it comes to merch or anything, obviously that you're selling to an audience. So let us know down below.
So what's the best merch you've like? Do you have a favorite piece of merch or best merch that you've seen?
Dang. It's just weird that now we're in this like pandemic world where it's been 3 years now. And like, I haven't been able to go to shows because that was one of my favorite things to do is just like, oh snap, I like that art. Let me just snag a t-shirt real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I enjoy. I like going to obviously like the bigger stuff, I suppose, where you like, damn. Okay, hold up. I'm going to be upfront. My favorite merch before I started even doing all of this was Childish Gambino. I saw him live with Danny Brown and like before they took off. And they had like a camp shirt because Gambino felt like he was running like a summer camp or whatever. And like, that's what his record was about. One of the best records of all time, by the way. We're not going to get into it now, but don't make me. And again, it made you feel like you went to summer camp or something like that. Like is the t-shirts they used to give us back in the day, like, over the summer. So that honestly was my favorite merch drop, vinyl aside. But what about yours?
So it was like a t-shirt, but it was because of the association you had with the artist in the event.
We gotta elaborate.
Well, okay, so we're gonna get into that.
Okay, perfect.
The reason why do people want merch? They want merch because it's a souvenir that elicits an emotional response or calls back to a memory or something.
So it's not just a t-shirt. We're not just buying a t-shirt that looks cool to look cool out in the summer.
Get a hoodie.
Right.
It's, hey, I had such a good time, so I want something to recall that. Or we're signaling to other people, hey, look, this is what I'm about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting because when I think about my favorite merch, it falls into like two categories. And one is definitely like the stuff that's emotional. And you see me, like I wear phase stuff all the time. For me, it's about like, if I have a good experience with you, it doesn't even matter what the merch looks like because I want to support the people I love and I care about. And even like I have some friends who have a streetwear line out here, and no doubt, anytime I wear something that's mathematics branded, someone will stop me and recognize the brand because they've built a community around the brand. So there's like a recognition that happens. So every time I wear their stuff, I feel so good and I feel like I'm part of something. But I also have a soft spot for really practical merch. So like I have a friend who is a video editor, and her merch is like things like accessories for your phone so that you could take iPhone videos. I love stuff like that. That's like fits exactly with what you do. It's unique and it's different, but it also, every time I use it, I think about your expertise. So I think as we think about merch, it really does fall into these two kind of categories of either like practical and or emotional. And that's part of why people will buy your merch, especially if they don't know you or like your name doesn't really mean anything to them yet. Those are other reasons why they might want to spend the extra money to then represent you in the world. I also have these socks I got from at South by Southwest like years ago that like Pandora was giving away.
Oh, damn. I saw that article the other day. What was that? 2017, I think I read, or something like that.
There was an article about the Pandora socks.
No, about you at South by Southwest.
Oh, that's so weird.
My bad. I assumed you already knew this. This is. I don't have a website. I don't know why I need one. God. But I wanted to ask you this because you talked about merch. You talked about merch outside of like clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, can you elaborate on that a little bit about like, you know, it's not just about like, because we see artists all the time, right? Like, yo, like buy my t-shirt, buy my hoodie. And there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But there are so many other different things you can do outside of clothes to draw people in, especially if you really know your audience, the people that you're targeting. Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So that's the key part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like hoodies, t-shirts, super easy, right? Like anyone can drop ship. You get a Shopify and like put your logo on, like super easy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And also, you can think about what does my audience really like? So if your audience is really like mothers of young children, maybe you do some like branded diaper bags. Or your audience is like dancers. Maybe you do some like really practical duffel bags that dancers can take to rehearsal. Or I worked with one artist who did nail polish. I worked with another artist who has like a coffee line because coffee is really, you know, like branded coffee. So like you can get really, really creative and create things that if you think about, and this, I feel like every episode of Office Hours, we're like, go back and watch our episode on finding your niche, because that is the foundation of all of these things. Is if you understand who your audience is, what they want, what they need, then you can design merch that meets their needs. And so you can have always like baseline hats, hoodies, t-shirts, but then maybe something different, something extra that, because part of that, right, y'all, is that I can get a t-shirt anywhere. But I might not be able to get like a super cool, I don't know, like water bottle. Or I might not be able to get special like limited edition pens or a journal or whatever it might be. And so it's that sense of like, oh, this is something special that also kind of incentivizes people to cop what you're offering. So, and you can play around, you know, if you're like drop shipping, you could really play around with a lot of that.
Right. I was going to try to look around and see if I had anything around me that I had merch wise, but like, yeah, you can really, if you know, like Nora said, go back. There are so many different episodes on like finding your target audience, finding your niche, because that's so important. It starts there. I feel like actually a lot of artists will jump the gun and will be like, yeah, I got this dope shirt. And sometimes wonder why it doesn't sell. It's because that connection and that trust hasn't been built yet. You're expecting people to pay money just because. But if you take a second to actually build the relationship with your audience and figure out who you're trying to target, you know, you're able to actually figure out what merch they would actually buy and what designs and stuff like that they would get into. So, you know, there's a bit of jumping around, of course, but you really should go check out the other episodes about niche and finding your market first, because it really helps you build that connection before asking them to pay for stuff just because. Nora brings this up all the time. Like I don't care what nobody says. We're still in a pandemic. Okay. So people like money and all this other stuff. It's like, an independent, buying a shirt or buying XYZ from an independent artist isn't always the first thing on people's minds. But if you know, actually build that relationship and stuff like that, like you'll see more returns in terms of purchases and stuff like that.
Yeah, and part of that is also, and for folks who are joining us, welcome to Office Hours. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to drop it in the comments now in the chat if you're live with us, or if you're watching this after the fact. We always come back and answer any questions you drop in the comments. So tell us about the best or worst merch you've seen.
Right.
I think part of that is also being thoughtful about how you design your merch. And so merch design, you know, you could, and again, super easy, go on Canva, pick a font, put your name, add it on a hoodie. Or you can take the opportunity to find an artist and collaborate with someone. And so now your merch becomes another creative outlet that people can participate in. Maybe you ask your fans, do you like the red colorway or the blue colorway? And now they get to be in the same way that you want them to participate in the album or the product output or creative project output. You can invite them to participate in the design process around merch so that they're giving you feedback and you're sharing the process with them. And so thinking about, do you want to just put your name, or are there other design elements you can include? Is there a cute logo, or is there a saying or things like that that might be a little bit more accessible to people? So your name doesn't always have to be front and center, and you can get creative with like where you place things and stuff like that. So when you think about merch, I think oftentimes artists think very narrowly that it has to be a hoodie and it has to have my name on it. But if you think about different design elements, different product elements, it expands the entry point, especially if you've never done merch before. It expands the kind of entry point where your audience can start to kind of interact with you. And it gives you, for some people, like $50, $60 for a hoodie, that's expensive. But $10 for like a journal might be more affordable, right? So that's a lower investment that they can make. And so you can start to think about financially. And again, this is another place to go back to your niche stuff, because you should think about what's the kind of financial economy of your audience. Are they super rich? Are they thrifty? Are they willing to spend a lot of money on high quality things? Do they like luxury? Then taking all that information, you can start to kind of experiment with product, price, and quality of what you're offering.
And going and doubling down essentially on what Nora said is like, give your audience those options. I have seen artists talk about, oh damn, I spent all this money on hoodies, and we'll actually probably get into drop shipping before we get out of here. But like, if like, don't spend all this money to get a bunch of stuff produced that you haven't even like talked to your audience about. Because at that point, like, you can't expect them to just buy something, like, again, just because. But if you show them the options and you show them, yo, like, do you want a hoodie or do you want a t-shirt? Do you want this or do you want that? Do you want this design or do you want that design? That makes them feel part of the process. And then when time comes again to make that purchase, they'll be like, oh, damn, like I actually chose this one. So yeah, let me grab that real quick. And again, and then take that extra step. Once you have it all sent out, have them take pictures of themselves in it and stuff like that, and tell them like, yo, like I'll post you on the page or I'll do XYZ, whatever. Because again, that makes them feel like they're part of the rollout, that they're part of, the journey or whatever. And they are. So, when you showcase that, it just, in that again, it's the trust in the relationship stuff that we always talk about. Like when you involve them in the process, when you say, hey, like you made that purchase, bet I'll post you on my page and all that other jazz. Like it just makes it easier and easier for them to keep making more purchases as you make more products, more albums. And again, it doesn't, even if it's not music, it doesn't matter if it's music. So yeah.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is giving people an experience. So even when you ship something, and I think you're right, we should talk about drop shipping in a second. Even when you ship something, thinking about how you package it. Am I just going to open plastic and then my t-shirt's there and there's no note? There's no information, no thank you, no, especially when you're small and early stage and you're doing things in a scalable way. This is really a way for you to build a one-on-one relationship with this fan who's just willing to spend money on you. And so you like, I work with someone, actually y'all have seen me. Sometimes I wear the earrings that Ciendita makes, and her packaging always has like little candy in it, little stickers, a note. So even if I'm just getting like, I asked for earrings, but now I'm getting a cute little care package that makes me feel good. I'm like loved. Every time I eat one of the little, you know, like dulce candies, it makes me happy and I think about her. But then I want to share all the abundance that she's right. She's gone above and beyond. And so thinking about, yes, it's the product for sure, but also from design to packaging to what Sto was just talking about in terms of like sharing and thanking people. And if you see someone wearing it, you want to like celebrate them. You're creating an experience where you tell your fans the way you see me enough to want to wear me on your body. I see you too. And I thank you and I appreciate you. And that's part of why, as we talk, okay, well, I want to talk about non-tangible or non-like object-driven ways to make money. But can you just touch on drop shipping first, though? Because I think like it's a little overwhelming for folks when they're first starting to like think about how do I sell merch and how do people order and stuff like that.
Right. So I'm not, excuse me, I'm not a super pro at drop shipping and stuff like that. But what I do know, number one, that Sto merch is coming soon. Be on the lookout for that. But number two is that it's such an easy way to get your stuff out there, because I think one misconception I see with a lot of artists is that like, damn, like I have to put up the money up front for things like hoodies and stuff like that, when in reality you really don't. I'm blanking on some of the Shopify is one of them, but I'm blanking out on some of the other ones, like ones that YouTubers use and stuff like that, where you can have it to where people like the product is made as people order. And so with that, like you're not having to worry about like, oh damn, I have to put literally like $300 up for 5 hoodies. And so it makes it a bit easier. And again, that's why it's so important to test out your niche and put out those prototypes. There we go. Prototypes beforehand, because you're able to actually measure that interest, you know, ahead of time. And then you can actually, and I guess you're not really losing that investment with drop shipping, but again, you're not having to put so much money up front, but you're still able to get the product out there and, you know, still profit off of it. Because, you know, with Shopify, and it's making me so mad that I can't remember the YouTube one, but where, yes, they'll pay like what, $80 for a hoodie, but you know, Shopify will take out just a percentage of that and you get the rest of it. So that's like just a piece of it. I'm still learning myself, but that is part of it.
And I know sometimes as artists, like there's a hesitation to spend the money up front. And sometimes you don't have it, and that's legit, right? And drop shipping saves you from having to like buy the inventory and guess what sizes people need and pay for things up front. And also, this is a question of your own willingness. Let me not say willingness, because sometimes you're willing but not able. But it's an investment of a measure of investing in yourself. So some of you have no problem paying a shit ton of money to pay to play somewhere or to get on a playlist or to buy.
We're going there. Goddamn, Nora. Goddamn.
I mean, but it's if you think about those things as investments, you also have to think about merch as an investment in yourself. And sometimes it's not about how much money am I going to get right away, right? I bought this hoodie for $10. I sold it for $50. I made $40. Sometimes it's about the community I'm building. And so maybe you decide to do a giveaway, or maybe you bundle things and create, like you do a raffle, or anyone who buys your album like gets an extra sticker, or you know, there's ways to make people feel valued and appreciated. And so the value in merch, yes, like it's a great money making thing, because then, you know, the returns are higher than less than a penny for streams, but it's also a great way to build buy-in and investment from your community. And so thinking outside of just like how much money am I going to make, but really thinking about what's the value of this for me and for my fans. And so if you start to think a little more expansively, you can get really creative. around merch.
And stickers is a magnificent way
Stickers.
to get people in. I wasn't really a sticker guy at first, but then they started coming in, and I mean, my laptop is absolutely covered in them, and I love it because it again that it's very easy to be like, it's just a sticker, but like those stickers, whether it's on our laptop, our phones, whatever it is, like it represents us. So, as creators, when you're sending stuff out like that, like you're giving your fans a chance to really express themselves, and whatnot. So stickers, a pretty cheap merchandise item, if I'm remembering correctly. So, and it's something where it's like Nora said, like it's not just you can toss it in with anything. Like if someone buys a shirt, boom, just throw in a sticker. Like it's nothing crazy, but I guarantee you, like even with me, when I buy a record, like sometimes I'll get I just get a random sticker. I'm like, oh my goodness, a sticker! I can't believe it! Yay! Like I feel like I'm in kindergarten again. Right. So another good idea.
The other thing I want to make sure we touch on today is there are tons of other ways to make money. That's not, and this is, I mean, we're not even getting into like syncs and licensing and placements. Like I think that's a whole.
But we will.
We will. That's like a whole other office hours episode. But in as much as we've been talking about tangible physical things as a reminder of either like practical value or like emotional recall, you can also build experiences for your audience and experiences as a way to make money. And an experience, especially now in the virtual world, doesn't have to be come to my show. An experience can be come hiking with me this afternoon. Or an experience can be let's all get on Twitch and play video games together. Or an experience can be let's get on Discord and do yoga in the morning. Or an experience can be, I say this one all the time, do a contest, 3 of your fans get Grubhubbed dinner, and then you all get on Zoom and have dinner together. And so you can think about ways that people are going to get to do something. And psychologically, experiences make us happy, make us happier, and then that happiness lasts longer than things do. So you're creating an emotional response in your audience where they're going to bond with you and connect with you and have all the like feel good feelings around you that they're going to want to tell their friends, they're going to want to share on social media, they're going to want to repeat and recreate, and they're going to want to come back to. And so, as definitely like tangible merch, but also you can get really creative at a really low cost of these kinds of experiences that you can curate with your fans. And it doesn't have to be just you. This is a great opportunity to get you and like 3 other musician friends, and the 3 of you work together to curate an online event. It doesn't even have to be real life yet, where people pay like $5 and get to do like a special Ask Me Anything. Or they get to spend $5 and be in the studio with you as you're making a beat, and they're like giving you feedback while you're creating. No, there's tons of ways that you can create experiences, right? Like that people can do things with you. And that's another really solid way of making money and using your persona and your brand and your personality to subsidize CD sales or vinyl or streams.
Yeah, and just take note of like the diversity of what Nora just said in terms of like things you can do. It's not just like music based or whatever your product is based around. Like genuinely, you can take your interests and stuff like that and just put it out there and engage in that with your audience, because everyone may not get involved, but the people that do, they're going to remember that. And that it builds that trust, it builds that relationship. And that's what, again, leads people to eventually support and purchase things down the line and, excuse me, tell their friends about it. Like I had this great session with this producer, and they actually let us like in the beat session to like hear all these crazy beats for the next project or whatever. Like that sits with people, because then again, when the product actually does come out, it's like, damn, I was there for that. Like, I don't know. I think sometimes as creators and entrepreneurs, like we forget that those that are watching us or supporting us don't always understand how the process works. And think it's really just like, oh, damn, they just popped up with a new song. Damn, they must have just made that last night or something like that. Like, nah. So if you let them in that process and again, you give them extra goodies and stuff like that, they'll remember that down the line, especially now.
And then you know that these are people who are willing to invest in you. So you make sure they get on your newsletter, you segment them correctly so that you remember that these are people who like spent money, so you can continue to keep that relationship going and going and going. Not to always tap them to purchase something from you, but to make sure that you're appreciating them and calling on them as like advocates and ambassadors when you need them to. Before we wrap up, I also want to make sure that we remind y'all, Sto and I this month. So last month we did our newsletters workshop, which I think went really well and amazing. And we'll probably do that again, maybe like 6 or 7 months from now. But this month we're offering 2-on-1 consulting. So you get both Sto and I for 30 minutes. We'll work with you one-on-one. And I know a lot of people are like, why would I pay for you if I can get you on YouTube for free? You totally could. And that's part of why we offer all these episodes on YouTube for free. But if you want something that's more tailored and specific and strategic to you, where we work through the places where you're stuck, this would be a good, speaking of investments, this would be a good investment. So you get 30 minutes, which I promise is plenty of time to cover things. People think 30 minutes is a lot of time. And especially when you you get 30 minutes, it's $150, which is way less than what Sto charges one-on-one. It's way less than what I charge one-on-one. So if you haven't worked with either of us, this is a really great chance. So slide in my DMs, slide in Sto's DMs, email us, reach out to us, whatever it might be. But we're running that special through the end of this month. So end of March 2022, if you're like watching this in the future at some point.
Right.
Which is a crazy thing to think about, that like in the future people are going to be like, oh, anyways, let me not think about that before I get anxious about how like all my like awkwardness is caught on camera forever. But invest in merch. And the last thing invest in a consulting session because we're worth it. Invest in merch and realize that in the beginning you might not get it right away. So trial and error, allow yourself to be creative. But really remember that it's all about giving your fans an experience that they can feel good about and then want to keep recalling that feel good memory, whether it's a physical item or something practical or an experience that you're curating for them.
Yeah. And honestly, let us know again in the comments, number one, like your favorite merch, but also what you're working on merch wise. Hopefully this episode was able to spark some ideas and hopefully like kind of I guess help you ease into making merch and stuff like that. I feel like some artists and creatives and entrepreneurs, etc., are kind of intimidated by the process to an extent. So hopefully this kind of brings that down. And yeah, we want to hear like your progress. Like if you're making some dope ass merch, like let us know. And let us know, how, again, the merch that you have seen, because I think, especially now that more and more independent artists, I think, are putting that stuff out, like there's so much that can be done outside of clothes and stuff like that as well. So we'd love to see it.
Cool. Remember that Office Hours is every second and third Tuesday of the month on YouTube. We want to make give practical advice to independent artists. So reach out to me, reach out to Sto, and we'll see y'all in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
All right, see ya.